There are many elements to the justice system in the United States, and one of the most important ones is that of the defense attorney. By many metrics, how well you do as a defendant will absolutely depend on how good your attorney is. That's why many upper elite will go and hire the best that money can buy in order to try and get off. And then you have the case of Steven Avery, who has gone through multiple lawyers in an attempt to get free, but the one he has now has a fierceness that might just get him off because she's going after everyone who has potentially wronged him. Allow us to show you how Steven Avery's lawyers accuse the state of Wisconsin of withholding crucial evidence. Number 6. Steven Avery. This story is mainly about Kathleen Zellner, but need to talk about Steven Avery and how he landed in this whole situation in the first place that needed her to come in and save him. One of the key things to note here is that he is not an innocent man all the way around. Before the two major events that put him in jail for literal decades, he was found guilty of various crimes, but he went to jail for each of those and served his entire sentence every time. In 1985 though, everything changed. He was arrested, charged, and sentenced for the crime of assaulting a woman named Penny Bernstein. The reason he was charged with the crime was based solely on her picking him out of a lineup. The reason we bring that up was that 16 eyewitnesses and a receipt from a store noted that he was 40 minutes away from where she was assaulted at not too long after the attack happened. As such, it would be physically impossible for him to go and be the attacker, and yet he was convicted anyway. He spent 18 years in jail as his lawyers and others tried to convince people that he didn't do the crime, but they ignored him until DNA evidence was found to prove that he didn't attack her. A man named Gregory Allen did, a man who ironically had a strong resemblance to Avery. Avery sued them in a civil suit after being freed, something that seems rather fair given the circumstances. But then again, in 2005, just a little while after getting released, he was arrested yet again. Number 5. The case of Teresa Halbach. In 2005, a woman named Teresa Halbach was murdered, and Avery was arrested after blood had been found in her truck that was linked back to him. Avery wasn't the only one arrested though, as his nephew, Brendan Ray Dassey, was arrested as well and dubbed an accomplice in the case. From the outset, Avery claimed that not only was he innocent, but that the county was trying to set him up due to the civil suit that had been put against them by him. As the case went on, there was a lot of curious things that were going on with the police and the prosecution that led many to believe that this may not be as simple as the case was made out to be. Not least of which was that Dassey did confess to being an accomplice, but many argue, including Dassey himself, that it was a forced confession, that the police all but tricked him and suggested to him that he was guilty and needed to confess. Dassey was noted to not have the greatest mind and was very suggestible in regards to conversations. And with that came a whole slew of questions about the trial itself. As for Avery, despite the county he was suing stating they would not be involved in the case, many officers from the county were involved in the case, and some even found crucial evidence that Avery was guilty. Avery was indeed convicted of murder and other crimes and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. However, one woman has not given up in trying to prove him innocent, and her name is very familiar to those who know this case in the modern day. Number 4. Kathleen Zellner. Kathleen Zellner is a well-known attorney for various reasons, not least of which is that while she may be most known for now being the main defense attorney for Steven Avery, she had done all sorts of cases against wrongly accused people and won, including winning over $90 million from wrongful conviction and medical malpractice lawsuits, which makes you wonder what she might get if she's able to overturn this verdict. So if she's on the case, she's not going to stop until she knows that the right verdict is given, which means that Avery goes free and the county and state admit their wrongdoing in regards to what they did to him for decades. Number 3. Bringing forth new pieces of the puzzle. Over the last few months, Kathleen Zellner has been dropping some bombshells to fans on Twitter about her groundbreaking revelations in the case with Avery. And now, another member of the Dassey family has come forward to say evidence had supposedly been tampered with, which would obviously be a huge deal if proven to be true. She's accused the state of Wisconsin of withholding crucial evidence in a letter after new witnesses came forward. This follows Zellner's groundbreaking revelation earlier in the year which places Stephen Avery's nephew, Bobby Dassey, Brendan Dassey's brother, at the scene of the crime. Since then, Brad Dassey, Brendan's half-brother, has claimed that his uncle Avery is innocent and even said that his mother, Brad's mother, tampered with evidence via a laptop before authorities were able to grab it. A new court filing on the 13th of April states that a delivery driver has come forward and said he saw Bobby with an unidentified bearded man in his 50s and 60s pushing a Toyota RAV4 onto the Avery property in the early hours of November 5, 2005, which was the day when Teresa was killed. That age description is a very key thing, as in 2005, Avery would have only been 43. Granted, you can say a person looks one age but is another, but he was clearly stating that this was an older man and Avery was not that. Number 2, the appeals. In February 2019, Avery won a motion to appeal in a Wisconsin circuit court, which meant that the court would re-examine the case. Zellner's appeal argued that the bones discovered in the gravel pit on the Avery property, believed to be Hallbach's, had been mishandled by authorities when they were given to the victim's family in 2011, without notifying the defense. In August 2019, the defense's bid for a new trial was rejected in the circuit court, meaning Zellner and her team had to continue to pursue their appeal in Wisconsin's appellate court. Fast forward to 2021, and Zellner is still trying to appeal, even going to the highest courts to try and get the word out. In August, Zellner filed a petition for review with the state's high court, arguing for the justices to review 3 issues: ineffective assistance of counsel, Brady violations, and destruction of bone fragments, which seems like something that could happen, even if the state is trying to block them once again. Number 1, state interference. On September 8th, Attorney General Josh Kaul and Assistant Attorney General Lisa Comfort filed their response opposing Avery's latest petition for review. The state asked the Supreme Court to deny Avery's petition for review because he has egregiously misrepresented the record, the law, the lower court's opinions, and even his own arguments. Even a casual review of the record shows that the Court of Appeals correctly applied the law and appropriately held that the circuit court was not required to hold a hearing on any of Avery's issues, because Avery's motions were all utterly devoid of factual support sufficient to lead to the conclusions Avery claimed. Avery's motions were insufficiently pled, and the circuit court had discretion to deny them without an evidentiary hearing. So at best, Avery asks this court to engage in error correction of non-existent errors. This court is not an error-correcting court, and there is no compelling legal issue here that meets any of this court's criteria for review, according to the response. The state also invoked making a murderer in its response. In short, despite what he appears to believe, the fact that Avery's case was the subject of a television show does not absolve him from following the well-established rules of Wisconsin procedure. It does not entitle him to a hearing on insufficiently pled claims based only on raw speculation and misrepresentations of the facts, and it does not entitle him to this court's review of a perfectly sound decision by the Court of Appeals. This case does not meet any of this court's criteria for review, and there are no compelling reasons for this court to hear it. Kathleen Zellner responded on Twitter, "If we had wanted to reread the same error-filled COA Court of Appeals decision again, we could have. The state's regurgitation response addresses none of these errors. It just repeats them. Justice delayed again for Stephen Avery," Zellner writes. So as you can see, she hasn't given up. Not even after all of this trouble the state is trying to bring for her. Whether it's enough in the end, though, remains to be seen. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Kathleen Zellner and the various ways she's going about trying to get Stephen Avery free? Do you think she has a chance of this happening? Is she pushing too hard against a system that clearly doesn't want to free Avery? What do you think will happen next? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe. We'll see you next time on the channel.